I became involved with this Hilton Gainesville project last March when I came back to work here. Beth, another designer, had previously been working with Loop Interiors on this project, and when I had taken over the project, they had nailed down the background and the bleed out pattern. So at that point we knew, okay, we're going with some kind of swampy Gator Florida look because this is for the University of Florida Hilton Hotel. So we knew, this is our color scheme with those bright oranges and blues with the greens mixed in, and they wanted something that represented the Florida swamp. They didn't want to get too literal with necessarily a swamp murky background, but they wanted something that kind of looked similar to that. So Beth had nailed down that part of the design. So when I took over, it was to work on the corridors and the ballroom. And that's where the fun began. They sent in their inspirations of things that they wanted to see, different, palmetto leaves. At first they were kind of going with something abstract, but as the design revisions occurred, then we started hearing, well, we want to see something large scale. So to us, working in the carpet industry, large scale means, okay, width of goods, 12 foot, 15 foot goods. So we're sending, different patterns to them for Loop to, review and let us know what they like and what they didn't like. And they kept sending back revisions saying, well, we like your concept, we just need something larger. So finally we said, well, can you send us an idea of the scale that you're talking about? And that is when they sent in this. And we realized, oh, large scale is very large scale. So that's when we knew that we were going to have to work in conjunction with estimating on this because we had never produced something on this scale before. So we knew that with them wanting to cover a ballroom that was approximately 70 by 100 feet, that we would have to split this up into panels, which proved very tedious because our program that we work on can only handle so many pixels in a design. So I had to work very closely with estimating so that we could design each panel, and I think this ended up being in 30-something panels for just the ballroom alone. And then, of course, we had to split up the corridor because they did not want to repeat in the Gator scale. And so they had to end up tricking the machine to see so there would be no repeat as it went down the corridor. And just an example of the scale of these palmetto leaves, one of the largest palm fronds from one palm frond to the other ended up being about 20 feet in diameter. So it was very large scale. This rug in the pre-function area is an 18 by 18, so we used very large scale palmetto leaves in that. And one of the challenges we faced is we can make anything look good on paper, but we're limited to 10 colors in a printed product. So they wanted it to look very layered, very like it was the palm fronds were floating. So we had to really play with our colors and with the backgrounds that we used, just so that it would get the effect that they wanted. We also had to go back and revise our Gator scales because what we had been sending them originally was around a 72-inch pattern repeat. So each scale ended up being around, 3-4 inches. Well, then they came back and said, no, we need something larger. So the end result ended up being Gator scales that were about 12 to 15 inches. So it was a very large scale product.
We knew that we had something unique, a very unique opportunity on our hands when we met in April. And when we realized the size and scope of work and what they were asking for, but basically it boiled down to they were asking for an area of carpet that was almost an acre in size in floor space that did not have a repeatable pattern. It flowed from as soon as you walked in the door until you walked through a pre-function area out the back meeting door. So what we knew the challenges would be were that we've never tried to create a pattern this large before. The overall scope of work was around 3,500 yards, and I don't think anyone in that initial meeting really wanted to walk away and say, well, we'll just give up on this job. So it was large enough that it would warrant our efforts. So we knew that design would have a problem holding that large of a design. We knew that the ChromaJet printer might fail if we tried to run that large of a design. We knew we had limitations. So what we had to figure out was how can we make this work for the customer and it still be a success with our limitations, and come up with the idea of just taking the overall scope of work, the whole design, within this 35,000 square feet area, and basically we just punched it out like a jigsaw puzzle, except we made nice little rectangle pieces. It took a lot of effort. It took a lot of teamwork between estimating and design, project administration, production. But we basically had to render each area as its own little part of the jigsaw puzzle, and we would render that in estimating, and the designer would literally design that piece of the puzzle. And when you got piece number 1 designed, the designer would go to piece number 2. So we had to rasterize each little individual piece. Each little piece had to be designed, and then we estimated it as carpet to fit panels. We worked with the print plant to see if we could allocate certain row lengths, stressing to them, the importance of how all this had to fit together. And we basically babysat it from start to finish all the way through. And from March until, this is when the estimating got involved, until August, it finally came to fruition.
One positive result, other than it looks really good installed, is that we have a really good rapport with Loop designers, and so they have come to us for another large project that they are working on.
I think the thing that I'm most proud of is when we looked at the complexity of this project and what the customer was asking. As far as we know, this is something that we or any of our competitors had ever tried before. And all the initial answers were no, we can't do this. And we basically come up with a simple plan by saying, how do you build a mansion? You build it one wall at a time. And we basically stamped this out into small pieces and made it happen. And we took something that we thought we couldn't do because of our limitations, thought outside the box, and figured out a way to make it happen. And I think this has provided us the opportunity to do future jobs that maybe no one in the industry would even try or know how to make happen.